All right, everybody, welcome back into Pro Football Plus. I hope your Thanksgiving was fantastic. Mine was 4 days of glorious bliss. It's over now. I'm back to work, but we are back here tonight with all of you, with Shane, with Austin, to talk NFL football and a few other things at the end of the episode if we get into it. Thank you all for being with us. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing here in a second. We're going to get right into a larger segment in which we're going to talk about NFL teams and what spots for head coaches might be open by the end of the season. Once Black Monday has gotten here and arrived, what spots may be open. To me, this is a very important thing. I don't do this for just for pleasure. To me, it's an important thing because these franchises are all right now behind closed doors already thinking about this, talking about this, where they are allowed to make phone calls to other coaches or coaches' agents. They've already put out feelers. This is all going on actively right now. And it kind of comes to a head the day after the regular season ends. And then even into the playoffs, sometimes you catch another spot or two that may happen. So to me, it's really important. We're going to kind of follow this for the next couple of weeks. Me and Shane and Austin put some of our opinions out there about what we think will happen and what we think should happen. So we appreciate all of you being along for that. Right. Give me a second here. I'm going to start sharing the screen, let everybody kind of see all the NFL teams we got up here instead of our beautiful faces that'll be up in the corner. Got all 32 teams up here in the NFL. I think everybody in the first place is up here on top, basically. Second place, third, fourth place is kind of how we're tiered here. We're going to start off by taking some of the teams that we're fairly certain are safe. There's some that are no doubters. Put them off to one side, and then we'll work our way through the rest of it. Shane, glad to have you tonight, man. Hope your Thanksgiving was awesome. Go ahead and give us 3 NFL teams that you feel like the head coaching spot is locked in for next year.
Okay. I mean, I could pick right off of that top row. I think quite a few of those guys are safe, but the first one I will, Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, locked and loaded. I think even if they have a fall in the playoffs, they still see that he's turned that team into what Detroit's always wished for it to be. I think the second one for me right now would be the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh came in, turned that team around. Also his first year, but again, they wanted a tougher team. They needed more accountability. He's come in and done that. I think that speaks volumes for what he's been able to do with that group. And then if I'm, this is where you start to reach. I think this team has produced well, and they've turned themselves around. But I'm going to say the Arizona Cardinals. I normally take a shot at them. The other team I would have thought was Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell and what he's been able to do for that team. But I think Arizona, there's a vision for what that team is supposed to end up looking like, and I don't see them making any moves on the coaching end on that.
I'm inclined to agree with everything that you just said, Shane, so I won't touch it at all. Austin, I'll let you pick out 3 teams. If you disagree on anything Shane put out there as far as safe, let us know. If not, move on, pick out 3 more.
Yeah, I want to go one from each of the top 3 rows for safe. So at the top, I'll go Mike Tomlin. He's all the way safe. No worries about that. Second row, Shane mentioned it. Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings. He's set. He's not going anywhere. And then third one, this might be sneaky, but Sean Payton is safe with the Broncos. I think what he's done with that team shows that he should continue to be their head coach.
Yeah, totally agree on all 3 of those. If one of these guys that we've already put over in the safe spot gets fired, then whoever fired them should get fired too. Because these guys, I think, have all done plenty of good work to not be chasing around and doing job security crap here. I'm going to go ahead and move over one of the really obvious ones, Andy Reid of the Chiefs, not going anywhere until he decides to. He's totally safe, of course. To me, there's zero chance DeMeco Ryans, even though they're not having the year, some people thought maybe. There's just no chance that DeMeco Ryans is getting out of here. And then Sean McDermott for the Buffalo Bills. People kind of expected at least a small step back. I had them winning the division, but I didn't have them doing this, and they are lighting it up. So if he needed it in job security, and I'm not totally sure he did. He's got it. So he's locked and loaded, ready to go for next year. He may even win a Super Bowl this year. Who knows? All right, Shane, we put a lot of the safe ones over here. I still think there's a few more. So give us maybe two more this time that you feel are safe. And if we feel like it merits a discussion, we'll jump into it.
Okay. Sticking with the top row on that one, I think Mike McDonald with the Seahawks. Has the season gone exactly how they want? Probably not, but they're also in a division that's shifting quickly. So even with a down season for them, they're still in the fight there. And then one that I don't think gets the pub that it probably should on what they've been able to do with the season they have. And that's going to be Green Bay. Has it gone great for Matt LaFleur all the time? No, but transitioning from an all-star quarterback, they've played two quarterbacks this year. The offense keeps on being dynamic. I don't see Green Bay deciding that he's going to be the one that is the reason if they don't pull through.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's just no chance. Even if they got a first-round exit or something, Matt LaFleur is the guy. I don't see any reason for him to be heading out. All right, Austin, if you disagree on anything, trot it out. If not, give us two more teams you feel like are safe.
Listen, I'm going to reach down in the bottom of the barrel. I know one of these teams that I feel pretty confident that they're going to be safe, even though they're on that bottom row and have had a pretty rough year. But that's going to be one guy I love, Kevin Stefanski with the Browns. And then looking for another team sort of in that bottom area. I think there's a few more that are safe, but I wanted to give Kyle Shanahan his, safety net. He's all right. A lot of injuries this year. He'll be back next year.
I agree. To me, Shanahan is safe. Could I see a year in the future? And I'm a firm believer Shanahan wins multiple Super Bowls before he's done coaching in his career. But could I see a situation maybe like Andy Reid in Philadelphia, where it just starts to not fit in the next year or two, and maybe they part ways? Yeah, sure, maybe, but that's not this year. Just no way, no how. Shane, I am curious, real quick. I think Kevin Stefanski should be safe, but it is another losing season. Any chance there? You feeling that the owner's not always a patient guy there in Cleveland? Any chance you feel Stefanski's out the door?
See, I agree with you in Austin. I think Stefanski's done an amazing job with what he's been saddled with. Sometimes your coach has to defeat your general manager and your owner. The only reason why I'd be worried about him is, like you're saying, that's Haslam, and the Browns have made terrible decisions year after year. So if you think that Kevin Stefanski is the reason why the Browns aren't winning, I think you're wrong. But I could see the Browns doing that. That's one of those ones. Like there's a couple of teams on here still that I don't think it's the coach's fault, but you're gonna be, risk averse as a GM. There's a chance that you get rid of the coach to save your job for another year.
Yeah, I agree. The only way Stefanski is out the door is if Haslam decides, hey, I want to shake things up, and I hope he doesn't do that. So let me get a couple more names in here. Dan Quinn, to me, has done just a tremendous job there in Washington. First year, zero chance he's going anywhere. And then Mayo's got less of a talent base to work with in New England, but I feel like after year one, there's zero chance he's going anywhere, and maybe he's there for a long time. So those are my safe ones. We've got some more safe ones on the board, I feel certain, but let's turn around and go ahead and catch one team each that we know is not safe. The seat is burning up. In fact, somebody may have already even been fired. So Shane, give me one of those.
Really, like you said, the ones that are already fired, I think those seats are already burning up. I think the Cowboys, that move hasn't been made yet, but I think that's the one that sticks out to me. You already mentioned Brian Dable. I think his seat is definitely hot, but the Cowboys, again, it really comes down to a lot of this is the owner that's on the books. Dallas is always going to be Jerry Jones. He doesn't care who coaches. It's going to be Jerry Jones' team, and he wants you to know that. So With them underachieving, even with some injuries this year and a lot of decisions that need to be made, I think that puts Dallas fully on the hot seat.
I agree. Also, I'll let you chime in on that. I agree that Mike McCarthy, and I've actually liked his coaching work probably better in Dallas than I did in Green Bay, because at Green Bay he had Aaron Rodgers every year. They kind of underperformed as far as Super Bowl success went. But here in Dallas, I've been fine with it. And not this year. This has not been a good year, so there's a good chance he's heading out the door. Austin, give us a team whose the seat's hot or it's already been burnt to a crisp.
Listen, if you've been paying attention to me, you'll know there's one guy that I can't stand. I don't know how he's had a head coaching job this long. Please get Zach Taylor out of the head coaching seat in Cincinnati. It's been too long. I've been calling for his name. I've been saying it since we first started the Tree Takes podcast in 2022. He should have been gone in 2022. He should have been gone in 23. He's got to be gone after this year. He has had Joe Burrow as the starting quarterback for over 2/3 of the games he's coached since his time in Cincinnati, and he's 41-52 in his 93 games in Cincy. Like that's just not, that's inexcusable.
It's a great point. I've never been a huge Taylor guy. I've been inclined to stick with him. You could talk me out of that, though. Shane, real quick, up or down on Taylor?
I agree with Austin on this one. I mean, I think Taylor got a position basically off of what a so-called offense that he ran before. And even the Bengals, like, yes, when you look at them offensively, they are producing points, but they're not producing any victories. Like Austin said, I think this year there's a lot of other things that have tied in, but I think he's made some terrible coaching mistakes, even on years where he had playoff team. This year's been a different boat where you've had to fight for it. But yeah, I agree. I've never been a Taylor guy. I really didn't think he was a fit. I think some of the offensive magic they had was a Callahan. Both Callahans being there as O-line coach and offensive coordinator helped him and helped Burrow. And now that he has neither of them, the offensive line is playing at its worst. And I don't see a lot going well for them right now.
All right, fair enough on Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. That's an interesting one. That's one that we'll wait and see Black Monday what happens there if the ownership decides to move off of that or not. I went ahead and put the Bears over here on the hot seat, the Saints on the hot seat, the Jets on the hot seat for obvious reasons. Their coach has already been fired. I'm going to put a plug in for Thomas Brown. I don't know if he can be a good head coach or not, but I do know he's already helped Caleb Williams. And so if he looks anywhere at all over the rest of the season like he could handle a head coaching job, I'm inclined to just give it to him. That's complicated, not easy. It's just a thought at the moment. I've got Austin, these three teams that have already fired their coach. Any more thoughts on the guy that's in the helm right now?
No, I'm not a fan of interim head coaches. Like I don't care what you do as an interim head coach, to be honest. I think it's just such a dynamic shift in the whole organization that I think you kind of have to throw that out the window and interview the guy like it's his first time in the door when, coaching cycle comes around the next offseason. That's my take on it. So I don't really feel a need to comment on how any of them are doing or anything like that.
Fair enough. I'm going to go ahead and move two more helmets over into the safe area, and then I'll kick it to Shane to get comments either on the interims or the two that I moved. I'm going to put Harbaugh with the Ravens over here in the safe area. This season hasn't gone great, and, they've had more than one season that hasn't gone maybe to the high level they thought. I still feel like he's safe. I don't feel like there's any chance that they move off of him. And then the Tennessee Titans, they have not been good this year, but it's first year head coach there, so I just don't see them making any kind of a coaching change there. Shane, back to you. Feel free to hit on the interims, the two helmets that we just moved, the Ravens and the Titans, and then give us another team that is either safe or not safe.
Well, I think kind of like Austin said, when you're talking about interim coaches, I've always thought it weird that it's always a member of the staff that was already in place. So how bad was the head coach that your talent as an assistant coach didn't do a job for him? You get rid of take like the Jets. You get rid of your entire, it's a defensive coach. You have a defensive assistant who you put back in place after firing the OC as well. The defense hasn't increased. Was that speaking of how he was as a coordinator and now a head coach? I think the NFL, especially now, is becoming more of a head coach CEO than the head coach X and O. And then when you're looking for that as an assistant, how much are you already prepared to answer some of these questions about, who are we moving on special teams? Where's this guy coming in? How involved am I with the GM? When you're an interim, you have no thought and no execution on what's going to happen that next year. You've got to play out the end of the year. I think, like you said, with Tennessee, I would agree that Callahan is safe. I don't think he's done a great job. He wasn't a choice for me. I think Tennessee really dropped the ball. Vrabel was a personal favorite of mine, and I thought that the team played well for him. He just had, terrible quarterback play that really put him in a hot seat. Tennessee right now, again, terrible quarterback play. So you changed the coach. What else did you get from it? I think, like you said, with the ones that are automatics, I think when you look talent level, the Saints are the job that I'm not taking. I think you're in the most stress in that. Very few offensive weapons other than Alvin Kamara. Defense that's played well, but how much longer are they going to be able to keep that up? You look at the Jets. Jets have numbers. As a quarterback, do you move on from the quarterback? If you're Chicago, you have what appears to be a decent offense that was just ran terribly before. So I think like those three right there, it's really where you're going to make the move. And I think the Saints just are in a terrible spot, not only draft capital wise, but their roster right now is probably one of the weaker ones too.
Saints not in a good spot. They look like a bit of a tear down rebuild or remake over the next couple of seasons. Austin, I'm going to go ahead and move Sean McVay and the Rams over to the safe category. I probably took it from you, so I'm sorry. But while I'm doing that, unless you were going to fire Sean McVay.
No, I was going to tell you to move him over, and that didn't count for me because I was just tired of seeing him over there.
Right. That's what it was bothering me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was being irked and I made a face when you moved Tennessee over. It was like, how can you move Tennessee over and not like Sean McVay? Okay. I think there's two other guys right here that are in a different class of coaching than the rest. And those two guys are Nick Sirianni and Mike McDaniel to me. And then I think you have this kind of middle tier, and then there's the bottom. So, I mean, I know you especially, Ben, have been very critical of Nick Sirianni, but I think he's okay. I think he's safe. So I'm happy to move him over.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I'll just keep him out there in the green area for space. Sirianni's done good this year. Will he still Sirianni at times? Sure, but overall, he's done a good job this year. This team is cranking it out. Like Shane said, kind of the CEO. Where y'all at on Mike McDaniel with the Miami Dolphins? Shane, you first.
Well, to hit on one thing about Sean McVay, the only reason why I didn't put him over there is because I think it more depends on how much longer does Sean McVay want to stay with the Rams. He had that moment before where he said, my batteries are dead. And then he got amped back up to be able to make another run. I think this year with the injuries and some other stuff, I think he is more likely to say, okay, I'm done than it would be for the Rams. The Mike McDaniels, for me, it's always going to be, when I watch the Dolphins play, I always think he cares more about whatever he can do with his offense and being able to, say, hey, did you see that play that I just called, or wasn't that great, than the entire team. And I think some of that is starting to wear on the Dolphins. And then the last 2 years defensively, they have had injuries that have killed them at the end of the year. They're one of the ones where I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, or if something goes really wrong at the second half of this year, where he would end up having to find another spot.
Austin, real quick on the Dolphins. I got several more teams I want to hit here. Real quick on the Dolphins. Are you inclined to leave them in the middle somewhere, or are you already pushing them out the door here?
I think he's as safe as, say Callahan. I mean, I think he's on that same kind of level of safety to me. I don't think he's going anywhere.
All right, fair enough. I'll leave the Dolphins here in the middle because I'm inclined. At the moment, I'm inclined to think that he's safe. But if him and Chris Greer start feeling the heat, it's going to be a real big power play there, just like we've seen before. If the season goes south on them. Carolina Panthers, I'm going to put them over here in the safe category. It's a first-year guy, and they've started playing well over the past month. So they're going to be safe there in Carolina. I'm going to put the Falcons here in the safe category because it's first year, and they're still leading the division at the moment. So he's not going anywhere there either. Let's do the Jaguars. Any chance at all, Shane, that Peterson survives this?
No, I don't think so. And I don't even know how much of it really goes on him. But this has been his kind of MO too. Come into a team that was built before, and then he'll have 1-2 good years. For the Eagles, luckily, those good years led to a Super Bowl. In the beginning with the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, had a winning season, had a playoff run. And then now that it comes back to what are we going to be able to do, the team is falling back down again. For them, again, I find it so hard. We really take shots at the NFL coaches, but so much of your career as an NFL head coach depends on the GM that selects you or the one that gets put in place while you're still there. And I think that is probably the number one thing, your ability to work with your GM. I think that helps Shanahan, like we said, in some situations where they just haven't been able to pull it out. If he doesn't have the type of relationship that he has with the upper management, then I think he's in danger. When you talk about somebody like Peterson, I don't think there's any group that's going to be able to help them. I'm also not a Trent Baalke fan. So, the decisions he's made, I wouldn't be surprised if he cuts Peterson and plays it off that's the real reason. And then, they're in the bottom of the division again next year, regardless of who they put in place.
Shane, it's interesting you said that because I've been looking at things, and I just can't help it. We all have a perspective, right? I've been looking at the NFL from a general manager's perspective for 25 years, since the late 90s. It's just kind of how I think. But over the past 10 years, I've thought more and more how much, if I were a GM, my success would be tied to the coach I pick. It goes both ways. You're looking at it from a coaching, so like, hey, how can I get along with my GM? Man, if I'm a general manager, I hope that coach makes the best of what I've given him. Because if he don't, we might both be out the door, right? So you're tied to each other, and once the pressure's on, it's like, well, who can get who first? Because only one of us gets to stay, and maybe both of us are gone. So, you see that, but boy, you're right. You got to work with the GM, and you got to hope that your head coach knows what he's doing. You got to hope you made a good pick there. So, Austin, any chance Peterson stays with the Jaguars at all? Any chance here?
It's very slim. I like him to be in the hot seat.
Okay. All right. Totally agree. Austin, I've got 4 teams left here. It's the Buccaneers, the Colts, the Raiders, the Giants. Pick one and tell us which direction you want to go with it.
I'm going to go Todd Bowles is safe. I think the Buccaneers are going to end on a good run here, and he'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree. There was a time 2 years ago where I thought, hey, we've seen kind of Bowles before in other places, and maybe he hasn't quite got it all together. But the past 2 years, man, I've been just nothing but impressed. There's no chance they let him go. Even if the season starts to fall apart a little bit, there's just no chance they let him go. Shane, any thought on Bowles real quick, and then move us on to one of these final 3 teams?
No, I would agree with Tampa. I think he's done well with what he has, and they've stayed competitive. And I also don't see the other thing for a lot of these other ones that are down there is Bowles has never had a moment this year where you just went, wow, that was a terrible coaching call. Like, why did we put him in that spot? Why do we make those moves? The one that sticks out to me, I mean, you already mentioned the Giants. I mean, I think they're a mess all around. I think Dable loses his job, but not necessarily because of anything that he's done. The one that really questions me is the Raiders. I think the Raiders have issues, but I also think that that coaching staff has made plenty of questionable decisions, and I'm not sure that the locker room is with them anymore. So I think they would be the one that would jump out to me as another possibility.
It's amazing. I was never truly in the camp that Antonio Pierce should be a great NFL head coach, but I was firmly in the camp that he should get that chance based off of last year. The energy that he rumbled in with after McDaniels left, Josh McDaniels got asked to leave the Raiders organization, was like, hey, just keep rolling with that, roll with that. But it wouldn't surprise me if they let Pierce go. Austin, real quick, Brian Dable to on the Giants and Antonio Pierce here with the Raiders. Who survives? Who doesn't?
I think Antonio Pierce is safer than Dable, but I do think they're both on the hotter side of the chart here.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I'm going to put the Raiders here on this kind of south end of the spectrum here. Real quick, Austin, would you keep Brian Dable or would you let him go and start over?
No, he's gone.
All right, and Shane, what about you? Would you keep Brian Dable if you were the GM making the decision?
No, I think Dable's had enough to where there's questions about how he runs the team too. Have other things happen for him too, but I think they've given him enough of a chance to show that, maybe he's a great coordinator, but he might not be the best head coach.
Fair enough. I like Dable as head coach, but I have seen him get a little too hot sometimes. Even Bill Belichick on one of the Manning cast said, hey, it wouldn't hurt him to tone it down a little bit, think a little bit clearer. And then over the past few weeks, you just haven't seen a whole lot great of effort out of the Giants here. Bothers me a little bit. I think Brian Dable is gone. That basically leaves us with Shane Steichen and the Colts. Now, there's a very good chance with that schedule they have left, they just rumble right on into the playoffs. And this conversation means nothing. But let's talk about that real quick here. Austin, I'll give you first shot on it because I've heard you talk about the Colts ad nauseum. If they were to miss the playoffs and go on a little bit of a slide here, any chance Shane Steichen's out the door?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's the one guy I would consider right now in limbo.
Okay.
I mean, y'all have McDaniel in the middle. I have him towards the safer end. I think if anybody's right there in the middle, it is Shane Steichen. He is completely on the teeter-totter. It depends on how the season ends, basically, if he stays or goes, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Shane.
I agree with Austin on that. The same things that you brought up, kind of like with the Giants not trying. The Colts have had some of those issues in their games. As we've seen this year, apparently you bench your second-year quarterback, and then they'll come back and win some games for you. Like you said, their schedule helps them at the back half of the year. I think if they get hot, that can keep them around. I've always liked Shane Steichen. I think he's a good coach. Some questions about, the coordinators he's brought in and how some of that has worked out for him. But I agree with Austin. I think he is the one that's a true, teetering case where this could really go either way. As Austin said, I'm not a McDaniels fan, but I think that he has won enough games in Miami, and that's going to keep him around. The big questions for them are going to be upper level. Is Tua going to be your quarterback going forward? Do we try to slow the offense down to help our defense a little bit? Those are going to be questions that are going to come his way, and he might have to make some tough decisions on who sticks around on his coaching staff. But I think him as a head coach is a solid choice.
All makes good sense. I'll go ahead and push the Dolphins over that way a little bit. The only thing I'm worried about there in Miami is we know that Dolphins owner wants to win. And if Chris Grier starts to feel that, then you are guaranteed that Chris Grier is going to try to push Mike McDaniel out the door. But other than that, I would like to keep Mike McDaniel. And then y'all mentioned Shane Steichen. Y'all both pretty much agreed on him. There's some questions to me about just how good a head coach Shane Steichen is, but I really want him to get another year with Anthony Richardson here. I don't think it would be good for Richardson to have another coaching staff come in. I want to see him get playing time, and I want to see him keep working with his coaching staff. All right, Shane, anything else real quick here? We've got basically 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jobs we think are out the door. I'm not totally sure Taylor's out the door, but 6 jobs right here that we think are out the door, along with, say, 2 to 4 more that we think are kind of in limbo right now. Any final thoughts, Shane?
I think the big question for the ones that we've kind of mentioned that you're in limbo is if you're an owner or a GM, the question is, if we let go of our coach, how much better of a coach can we get? Like if you're Miami and you're Greer, Belichick's not going to sign with you. Vrabel's not going to sign with you. You know, some of these coaches that demand having more power are definitely not going to make that move. You know, what are you going to get as a Raiders head coach? You know, those are the questions. It's the same thing like the Saints. Like, you know, who are you going to I think Dennis Allen was by far one of the worst coaches in the NFL, but who are you going to get to replace him? For him, you think you can make a move. If you're somebody like Miami, how much better are you going to get? What type of coach can you get that's going to be able to change anything in Miami? That's what sticks out to me for those middle ground ones. It's the same thing, like you said, with Sirianni. I think he's done a good job. The problem is it's Philadelphia, and they've done well enough to where when you win 2 playoff games and then you exit, they're just going to say, hey, you didn't make it to the Super Bowl. And that's the kind of pressure you get. So how do you combat that? You know, he's been knocked for the offensive and defensive coordinators that he's moved around the last couple of years when he lost, you know, Steichen and that. But, you know, this year the offense has clicked. Vic Fangio has been able to take an awful lot of rookies and second-year players on the defense, move that defense around, and now they're a force to be reckoned with. So, you know, what more can you question about Philadelphia? If they lose the game, they lose. Is it always going to be on him? That's where the question pops up.
Shane, great questions. We're actually going to answer some of those over the next 2 or 3 weeks for the audience. We're going to come back in with some of our favorite head coaching candidates and maybe even to some degree link them to a couple of teams we might like them for. Austin, final thoughts here on our board.
Yeah, I think it's a little surprising when you look at it to see the amount of teams that we think are safe. I feel like it feels like one of those years that half the league's going to get fired. But when
Right.
you really sit down and look at it, of teams that haven't already fired their head coach, we're most likely only going to see 4, maybe a 5th extra.
Yeah, I'd see it. You coined it very well, Austin. That's exactly how I felt. Is wow, we're going to have a bunch of teams firing coaches, but as we've sorted through it, man, we're looking at 7 to 10, and I'm leaning toward about 8 right now. I've been hearing from the media that it's going to be 10, but I think I'm looking at 8 here is about what I'm looking at, depending on who goes. Let's move on. Lead story, not so much lead story, but some of the stuff that we are going to talk about from over the weekend. We got the Eagles out muscling the Ravens in a big time matchup. Steelers win a shootout. Surprise, surprise, against Cincinnati. The Colts win that battle of young quarterbacks up in New England versus, that was a tremendous game up there versus May. The Commanders kind of come back and show that they got some strength. The Bills just rock and roll in the snow. And the Chiefs somehow are 11-1. Austin, what's your one big thing for the week, your lead story?
A few ways to go. I think the Eagles probably are the biggest story. I had mentioned how I think they are pretty much the second best team in the NFC, and I think they've cemented themselves as that. I really don't think it's arguable at this point in the year.
Agreed for me. I think they can give Detroit a handful. We'll see in a few weeks. Shane.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that we have on the board as that. The other thing that pops into my mind is really Bo Nix and the Broncos. You know, I don't know how well that was going to go with Sean Payton. It seems like they have an off and on relationship with how he goes after people. But surprising, especially with their ability to pull some games out. I thought that really stuck out. And I agree with Austin. I think the Eagles now offensively and defensively have put themselves a cut above, especially when you're talking about their ability to step up and defeat the run, because the Ravens did go to the run. It wasn't as if they turned off the offense on them, and the Eagles were prepared for it and ready to go.
Yeah, the Bo Nix thing is fascinating because I've gotten to watch him a bunch this year, more than I thought I would with him playing out west and me sitting here on the East Coast. But I've gotten to watch him a bunch. Early in the season, first 2 weeks didn't look too good. They started helping him out a lot. He started connecting. They had the running game, the defense going strong, and then him just lots of tons of short passes. By mid-season, it was screen, 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 and then just them occasionally unleashing him on 3rd and 6s and stuff like that. Monday night against the Browns, they helped him in the first quarter. You saw a little bit of screen. You saw a little bit of short stuff. After the first quarter, basically all help was off. They just cut him loose. That was big boy football he was playing last night. And of course, his completion percentage is going to go down because of that. You're going deeper and more complex with your throws. And you got a couple of interceptions, could have been 4 interceptions. But still, you saw a ton of yardage. You saw a ton of points. You saw him moving the football up and down the field. And some of those throws he was making were on-target bullets. I mean, really, really like what I saw out of Nix. And they cut him loose for 3 quarters, man. I think Sean Payton felt like this is going to be a shootout. I just need to let him go here, see what he can do. So good stuff out of Nix. We'll see what we get out of him moving forward. All right, time for a segment that I really, really enjoyed. Move you guys over here to the other side of the board. Tonight's topic, and I again, to the audience, I don't tell them what's coming up. This is opponent red zone, okay? So what we're looking for here is defenses that are good and bad and in the middle when it comes to stopping opponents who have gotten into your red zone, all right? So this is opponent red zone percentage. So the big stack here, the big column is actually bad. That's 76.9% of the time you're allowing the other team to score once they're in the red zone. And down here is actually good. This is 40% of the time you are allowing teams to score inside the red zone. Guys, this is a really hard one. There's no question about it. So if y'all get 6 or 7 of these right, I think you're doing good. I'll go ahead and unleash y'all. 9 defenses here. Who sucks at it? Who's great at it? And who's in the middle? Opponent red zone percentage. Go ahead and take it away, guys.
All right, let's just go ahead and get the Bengals and the Cowboys as high up as possible. And then the Bucks are probably going to join them over there. Falcons are probably going to be over there. Yeah, there we go. I think those are our bottom. Well, yeah,
I agree with you right now, other than I think San Francisco might be in that bottom group.
That's who I was looking at too. I think top 3 are going to be probably, and not in this order, Lions, Broncos, Ravens.
What do you think so far, Shane? We've got a little bit of groupings here.
Yeah, I think from what we've seen before that Dallas is just a terrible defense.
Mm-hmm.
So like Austin said, I think they're probably the worst red zone defense. I think the Bengals are probably number 2 on that end. I would put
I think Bucks have got to be there.
You think Bucks are 3? I didn't know if Bucks would be 3 or 4. I think San Francisco's higher up there. I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco is 3rd or 4th out of that group.
All right, Austin,
Okay,
what you feeling here, man?
Yeah, I'm fine either way. I would go Bucks there, but if you want to go Niners there and then go Bucks right next to them, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big jump between 3rd and 4th there, because 3rd is 68.4%, 4th is 57.9%.
Do you feel confident that's the Niners there?
I'll let you go, Bucks. Like
Okay.
I said, I think that it'll be hard to tell, but I wouldn't be surprised either way on either of them. I think they're both in that run. I think the harder one for me to figure out is if it's next, if you're talking, I think probably Falcons, then Seattle, probably Denver, Baltimore, and then Detroit as your lowest
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Those bottom three, I mean, they're so close. 40.1,
Yeah.
40.9, 41.9. Like that's
Real close.
indistinguishable.
Yes.
Um, yeah, let's go Lions, Ravens, Broncos, just like you said, 1, 2, 3.
All right. So Lions right here as our
Yeah.
lowest. Okay. And then Broncos as our number 2. And like I said, there's no way to really distinguish between these three. So if those are the three, then y'all great.
Yeah.
Falcons and Seahawks.
I don't know. I would
It's
probably lean
close.
Seahawks slightly better, but I mean, I'm very nitpicking there.
All right, I'm with the Seahawks over here, and again, that's close. That's just 3 percentage points off, and whoever these
Yeah.
teams are, they are in that middle tier. All right, anybody want to change anything before we knock it out here?
I like the looks.
This is a hard one. This was not easy because we know who the good and bad defenses are, but that doesn't always translate necessarily into specific red zone defense necessarily. So let's find out. Let's see what y'all did.
Wow.
Broncos are actually the best, so they're part of that low tier. So are the Lions. So y'all got that just right. That's dead on perfect. I'll switch them just to match the names. But these two, dead on perfect. I'll come back to the Ravens here. The Cowboys, worst. Y'all got that. And then the Bengals go right here. So y'all got that. So hats off. Y'all got 4 just dead on there. Where a little bit of surprise comes, who I think was it Shane? You were thinking 49ers maybe?
Yeah.
Yep. So the 49ers slot in right here. That's still close. Y'all are very close on that. Not a huge difference there. The Buccaneers are actually good at this. Red zone percentage, they're going to slot in right here, one of the 3 best teams, and it's not even close. So Buccaneers, I would not have known this. Obviously, y'all didn't either. I would not have known this, but here they are. That's one of those weird things because it's not a great D, but when it comes to red zone percentage, they're actually doing a good job right there. Seahawks, y'all got that dead on, and then the Falcons just need to move over. So basically, man, I think y'all got what about probably 7 teams, with the Ravens and the Buccaneers being the biggest switch off here.
Yeah, I'd say 6 with the 49ers as well. I think we got
Okay.
2 out of the 3 in each tier.
Yeah, that's pretty good. This is hard because again, very specific stats do not always line up with generic stats. Sometimes it just does not line up. All right, good job, y'all. These are the teams that are good, bad, and indifferent at opponent red zone. It's time to close up shop for the night. Here's our family of network. It's time for our final 60. Shane, give us your final 60 seconds, man.
My final 60 is rivalry games in college football. Some great ones to end off. Depending on how you are on the planting the flag and where you foot on those. My thing has always been, I'm not a fan of that type of stuff, but if you don't want it to happen, don't lose the game. Like most of those teams have done stuff that has irked the other team to get them to that point. And if you don't want it, then don't be a part of it. In my neck of the woods, the Syracuse Orangemen pulling off a major upset with Miami, and especially in a shootout. That was probably one of the bigger ones. And then I think this is going to be an interesting week with championship games and really seeing how some of these seasons end up tying up with this new playoff formula.
Real quick on the flag planting thing. The flag planting doesn't bother me at all. Like you said, I mean, losing the game pisses me off. That's what bothers me. I do not want to lose this game. What happens after that, I don't care. But I realize it does matter to some of these coaches and kids that, somebody's over here planting a flag on my field, so I'm going to go over and stop it. To me, the adults need to step up and decide. We're either going to allow the flag planting and crap like it, and we're going to punish somebody for coming over and starting a fight with suspensions the following season or for bowl games, or we're not going to allow it, and we're going to punish the teams that are trying to go over and plant flags and crap like that. One way or another, make a decision. I just don't want to see somebody getting hurt out of this. That's the only thing I really care about in all of this. Austin, your final 60.
Mine's gonna be to fan sportsmanship. I get we all feel like we're part of the team, but when a player lays a dirty hit on your quarterback, that doesn't give you a free pass to start throwing stuff at him from the crowd. The league will handle it. It got handled. He got, if you don't know what I'm talking about, big hit on Trevor Lawrence, Aziz, very, very dirty in my opinion. A warranted 3-game suspension. But yeah, don't throw trash at him while he's, walking off the field. It's not right.
No, I agree. I got on the Clemson fans for this 3 or 4 weeks ago on my podcast, Odds On Favorite, where they were throwing a bunch of trash on the field because they didn't like a call. I mean, goodness gracious, folks, keep it in the stands. Don't. It's so rare that I would ever be okay with that. I haven't yet thought of an instance in which I'm okay with fans throwing stuff on the field. I don't think I ever will. So, all right, everybody, thank you for watching tonight. Hope you have a great one. We got some cool stuff coming up over the next few weeks. We'll talk about more about coaching guys that we want to put in to some of these places. Have a great one. See you next time. Goodbye.